Welcome back to the Consistency Corner podcast. Today, I'm giving you a behind the scenes look at how I make my best friend, ChatGPT, a better team member and how you can do it too. Listen, I spend a lot of time reading content and I can spot AI generated content with my eyes closed. There's the overused, you are not alone theme. There is the cheesy rocket emoji. Like, good God, people, please delete the rocket emoji. And then there's the cookie cutter frameworks of like, it's not this, it's this. Or the like rule of three, where it always gives C lists of 3 bullet pointed things. And we all know chat loves an M dash. I'm not here to debate M dashes. I'm not a copywriting expert, but AI uses a lot of them. Okay. And don't even get me started on the excessive emojis I see in carousel slides. It's a huge tell. And here's the thing, maybe you don't care if people can tell that your content is AI generated, but I think with the influx of AI generated content we're seeing, it's important to understand the tells and understand how to customize your content. So it's not cookie cutter garbage. It's actually custom for you, because AI is not the problem. It's here to stay, but how it's used and the skills that we're developing to use it effectively is what's really important. Working with ChatGPT or whatever AI you use is a skill, just like training and managing a team member is a skill. You get out of it what you put into it. And I've been using ChatGPT and other AI tools for a while now, and it doesn't replace me as a strategist, but it makes my work more efficient, effective, and with the right mindset and process can actually help me be more creative. Because it's not just about speeding up the process so that you spend less time, but we also want to make sure we're getting better results. So today, I want to share the tips and processes and the things that have helped me make ChatGPT a valuable team member instead of just a copy and paste robot. Okay, I got to tell you this first, like truth bomb here. You cannot just outsource your entire marketing to AI. I know the internet gurus and the people telling you or selling you courses about how to use ChatGPT and how to write engineer prompts are going to make you think that. They're going to make you think like AI can just do it for you. No, it cannot, especially without the right setup. It doesn't know your business, your brand voice, your audience the way you do. And you want to think of AI almost like an overeager intern. They really want to help and they'll happily take on whatever you give them. And they won't always ask questions when they aren't sure because they don't want to appear like they don't know what they're doing. But they don't know what they don't know. And if you don't give clear direction, you'll get generic or even wrong work. And that's why so many people, when they try AI a couple of times, they get bland results and think like this doesn't work. Or they get bland results, they use them, and then it's not good for their business because, again, they don't get the results that they wanted to. It's not about the tool, it's about the process. It's the setup, it's the feedback and nuance of working with the tool. So, I'm going to give you 7 ways that you can make ChatGPT a better team member. Number 1, provide as much nuance and context as possible. Don't just say, write a caption for this post. Say, write a caption for this post. The goal of the post is X. I want a call to action that has the reader doing Y. Start with a compelling hook. Be funny, be thought provoking, be a thought leader, whatever it is. We want to give it context and nuance. Number 2, if you're like me and you are a verbal processor, I love to use talk to text and voice memos with ChatGPT. I like to treat it like a conversation, not a command. And that's where magic really happens. I will get back something from ChatGPT. I'll read it and then I'll hit that little voice memo button and say, okay, I see where you're going, but this is what I'm thinking, blah, 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 blah. the same way I would talk to a human, the same way I would have conversation with a team member or give feedback to someone in real life. I would give it feedback, and at the very end, I find myself often saying what I would say to a real human of like, "Does that make sense?" And then it can come back and say, "Yes, I see you're trying to capture XYZ," and summarize back to me what I'm looking for. And so we clarify and we revise until we get the best results. So number 3, I mentioned earlier about assuming it is an intern. So just remember, it doesn't know what it doesn't know, and to train it patiently. And although it's like, yeah, it doesn't know what it doesn't know, but doesn't it know everything because it's the internet and it's like got all the information in the world? That's true, but it doesn't know what information to pull back and to use if you don't tell it. So number 4, along with telling it what it needs to know, is to share examples. Share screenshots of things that you liked or things that worked for you to say, this is what I've done in the past. Please take a look at this for reference. And then that is gold in helping it understand the tone or style or what it is that you're looking for and getting something that's back that's more you or that's more actually working because you're pulling something that for inspiration that you've seen from somebody else, than like you just trying to explain everything with words. And I'm not saying that we're like plagiarizing here. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm not saying take a post or take a sales page or take an email from someone else and give it to ChatGPT and say, recreate this for me. It's like, no, here's what I want you to do. Here's an example of similar content I like that was used for XYZ. Please use this for inspiration as you create whatever I'm asking you to create. Okay. Number 5, this goes a little bit back to that like intern example, but sometimes you have to give it reminders. You do have to remind it of past discussions because it forgets. Like I often have to say, remember, my audience is founders who market to moms and are often moms themselves. Or I might have to say, remember, I'm not a course creator. I'm not necessarily creating content to teach my audience the how to because they're not necessarily in DIY phase. They're in do less, better, outsource, get it off my plate. I want someone to do it for me phase. And those are just conversations that we regularly have to have, again, to give it the nuance. And this is a big thing too. Like, this is why they say you have to check its work. I often will upload meeting notes, like a transcript from a meeting, and I'll ask it to help me put together action item follow-up list or a summary of what we talked about so that I can share it with other team members. And no joke, sometimes it's garbage and doesn't read it at all and just like makes stuff up. And I'll say, hey, where actually in the conversation could you give me the timestamp of where you pulled XYZ? And it's like, actually, I didn't pull from there. I just fabricated it or I made that up. And I'm like, no, I want you to only look at the transcript and do this. So you have to be really clear with it. And once you do that, and work past some of those, I guess, like junior mistakes that it might make, you can get really great results. But just be aware that that back and forth sometimes has to happen. All right. Number 6, ask for multiple options. So let's say I'm naming this podcast. I'm going to give it the transcript of the podcast, and then I'm going to say, give me a title for this podcast. But I'm not just going to say, give me a title. I'm going to say, give 5 options for a title for this podcast that are click worthy and SEO friendly. And then it's going to give me 5 options. And I might like 2 or 3 of them, or I might like one part of one and another part of another one. So then we go back to that step about giving it feedback and say, okay, I like this. I like this. This one doesn't quite make sense. Please give me another batch of 5. And asking for options is going to help you get a better result. And it's not like a real human where giving 5 options takes 5 times longer. So you might as well get options versus just asking for one output. All right. And then number 7, the final tip for making ChatGPT a more effective team member is when you're having conversations, start with the big picture, then narrow it down. Meaning, begin with the concept, the goal. What are we trying to achieve here? What's the 10,000 foot view? And then refine bit by bit. I'm going to give you an example of as I was working on copy for a sales page recently. I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, here is the copy from the existing sales page. I need to edit it. My goal is to take this buyer through this thought process to achieve this action. And we're going to work section by section through this sales page. But first, I want to write a new outline. So then we went back and forth on what does that outline look like? What does the flow look like? We weren't actually writing any copy yet. We were just deciding what sections were going to go where. And I'm your social media friend. I'm not your website friend. So maybe this example isn't relevant, but I want to, it's a good way to explain the concept here. So we go section by section together, back and forth, and align on an outline for the page. Then we write one section and I give it feedback. I share nuance. We refine. We get to the final version of section number 1. Then we start writing section number 2. And it's the same thing, back and forth, nuance. Because if I asked it to write all 10 sections at once, what ends up happening very often is it gets lazy. And by section 4, 5, 6 on the page, it's using bullet point lists, it's getting really generic, and it's forgetting some of those important details and nuance that I've already given it. But if we go section by section and I'm asking it to output shorter things each time, I'm going to get better results. Here's another example of a time that I used ChatGPT as a team member, but it's not something that ChatGPT could have done it on its own. I spent several hours building out a ManyChat flow for a client. And ManyChat, if you're not familiar with it, it is an AI automation. So it's a tool that on Instagram, you can say in your caption, hey, comment the word sparkle, and I'll send you the link for my favorite sparkly pen in this photo. That's not a real example, but you get what I'm saying. ManyChat then, with an automation that you've set up, will send the person a DM with that link. And you can build out a whole flow of conversation behind the scenes and like the back end of ManyChat to have with your customer. But just like optimizing a funnel, a sales page, an email, a caption, there is nuance and thought that goes into that unique customer journey. And I like to acknowledge with the bot that this is AI. And so I actually asked it to say in the chat that we were building the flow of hey, when you answer this question, the little robot friend is going to send you the link. But if you want to talk to me, just drop a question and I'll jump into the DMs and we can go back and forth. That's that's a super specific example. But the point is we're acknowledging that we're using AI and we are finding ways to layer in the human connection, because the more and more and more AI we're going to see, the more important that you're good at it, right? AI is not going to replace strategy. It can't replace your voice, your perspective, your leadership. And you don't want copy paste strategy that every other business in your industry is following. You need your unique value proposition baked in. You need your vibe, what makes you special, and the humanness included in the content that ChatGPT is helping you create. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens with some of the skills that we talked about today. AI generated content is everywhere, which means human originally generated content or even human supported human and AI collaboration content stands out so much more, to be honest. When it comes to the social media sphere, face to face, talk to the camera, messy behind the scenes moments, not super produced or glossy cinematic style content, all resonates with people. We saw this in TikTok when TikTok was starting to really, really ramp up. And as this podcast airs, to be totally honest, we're right at the deadline of the TikTok ByteDance needs to sell thing. And I don't know where we'll be, so I'm not going to go into TikTok too much on this episode. But we saw that trend on TikTok first of raw, real, behind the scenes, unproduced, less editing. And it's really making its way over to Instagram. And I'm not saying that style of content is right for every brand and every audience, But it's important to know that that's what's resonating with the market and understand what your community is looking for, what your ideal client is looking for. What is she consuming? What is keeping her on the platform and paying attention to your content? And when you use AI the right way, you can do that more efficiently, but we can't do it with just generic prompts and copy paste content. Okay. But when we learn how to do it the right way, it can make you faster, it can give you more options, it can give you more creativity and free up brain space to actually show up more and connect with your audience. But we've got to, again, treat it like a team member and not a magic wand. So if you've been frustrated with AI, I mean, believe me, there are days that I'm like, chat, what's going on with you today? Or like I've gotten content from a team member and I'll say like, hey, this this isn't your chat's best work because I know that my team member is using chat and that's okay. So instead of saying, can you rewrite it? What I'm actually saying is, here are some prompts that you might provide it to get better content. Like I'm helping you or my team member refine and revise with the right prompts. So we're not, it's not a ninja. Like it can't do everything. And it's got to consider you've got to consider what input and what feedback it's getting. And it can support you then, right? Like a team member who gets the right direction and the right feedback can support you when they're set up for success. And if you don't want to learn all the skills yourself of working with this tool and the nuance, you don't have to. Inside our agency, we've actually already built systems, prompts, and even custom GPTs for our clients to get the best of both worlds, strategy and AI working together. Like, I'm going to humble brag here for a second, but I taught my husband how to use ChatGPT because he works in construction. It's not an industry that's using it a ton the way marketing is. And he has used it for so many things now. And is like, oh my gosh, I never like would have thought to ask it the things that you're telling me to ask it. And there'll be times that he's like, I don't know how to say this, Ruthie, how would you say it? And I'm like, let me ask my friend chat. And I'll sit down and do what I said earlier about like giving it a voice prompt and then going back and forth with it. And so it's a skill that I feel like I have not only learned and honed, but I think it's like one of those things I'm naturally good at. I'm good at asking questions and I'm good at giving feedback. So my point is, if you're ready to make the most of AI and ChatGPT, let's work together. And myself and my team can help you. You get strategy, you get the technology, and you actually get a human looking at it with you because you cannot just outsource everything to AI. You can outsource social media to a team that knows how to use AI as part of the process. Or I can help you create a custom GPT for your own social media if you're in the space of still needing to DIY. If you have questions about ChatGPT, send me a DM. I love chatting, talking about this stuff with you and sharing best practices and things that work for one another because I do think it's important that we learn from each other. And like I said, I don't think that AI is going to replace everybody's jobs. Is it going to replace some jobs? Yes, it is. It is important that we, especially as marketers, learn how to make the most of the tool and use the tool and learn the new tools because that's the other thing. There is a new tool every 5 seconds. And figuring out which ones are good, which ones to spend time on, which ones are not worth it. That's a whole other skill set that we didn't even get into. But this episode's getting a little long. I know you've got a lot to do, a lot on your to-do list. So I'm going to let you go for today. We'll chat more about AI in the future and ways that it can support you in taking social media off your to-do list. So come back for next week's episode. I'm so glad you're here, my friend. And just remember, I'm in your corner. I'm cheering you on. And I appreciate you being here and part of the community.